Hi, everybody.
You look
So,
beautiful.
well, I don't have I didn't think that I was even going to do it. So I don't even have like my office ready or anything. But anyways, that's life. So, so life with dogs, life with big dogs. so, the thing with allergies is it can present in so many different ways, right? And more times than not, it's not a true allergy. It's a especially when it comes to food. If it's a food allergy, more times than not, it's a food reactivity. And when the uh, but or food sensitivities like diarrhea, chronic vomiting. But the interesting thing for me with allergies is I feel like dogs that have skin allergies are still in a place where they're metabolically healthy enough initially to produce the symptoms of disease on their skin. So rather than walking around and going, okay, allergies is skin disease, it definitely is not a skin disease. It's a manifestation of the disease on a deeper level on the skin. So every time we address allergies from a perspective of we got to fix the skin, we're not on the right track by any means. So, and that's why they never get better. It's why it gets suppressed, because when you have, it can start off with like, an itchy little ear, and then they put a corticosteroid in the ear, and then it goes from the ear to like a hot spot, and then it goes from a hot spot to a full blown allergies all over. Or it can just start off as itching and no visible signs of skin breaking or skin disease. Can start off with licking paws, rubbing their bums like with anal glands, but it can also be like reoccurring vomiting or reoccurring soft stool, or there's a lot of different ways that allergies present themselves, but most of the time it is topical, right? Like when we're seeing it visually through the skin. And again, if we were able to deal with the skin issues right from the get-go and not go through all of these suppressive therapies and antibiotics and all that stuff, then we can often shift the homeostasis or the energy of the animal to heal at a deeper level and derail the whole allergy skin issues from the beginning. But once you've got layers and layers and layers, then what happens is, if you think, I always say to people, when you think of allergies or any disease, but predominantly skin allergies or skin disease, if you think of the skin being a pipe of the body, like the outside of a pipe, and it's a water pipe, and there's a crack in the pipe and the water's leaking out. So where the water's leaking out, that's the skin disease. And you take a big bunch of duct tape and you wrap the duct tape around this hole. And that's what the steroids do. They're like, wow, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Look at this. They're not itchy anymore. This is incredible. But then underneath that tape, that hole is actually getting bigger. We're not going in and welding the hole, right? We're just suppressing the water from coming out. So the hole's getting bigger, 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 more powerful, more powerful. And then the duct tape comes off or falls off, or the steroids or the drugs stop, the atopica or whatever, they stop. Then it has a rebound effect, right? So it just kind of goes, right? It pushes back where it's been pushed down. So the body then just tries to almost detoxify, or the symptoms of the internal disease try to keep going to the most least life-threatening organ, right? So your skin is an organ, but it is our least life-threatening organ compared to the rest of our organs. So when the body is still strong enough, it tries to push that out through the skin. So when you suppress it, then it goes down to the original cause. So, I mean, that's how I look at at skin disease. And then what happens is let's say it starts off with an itch and you go to the vets and they put them on antibiotics. Let's say just to start, because they've got where they've been itching. It's not the infection that's causing the itch. They itch, they cause damage. And then where the damage is, they get secondary staphylococcus and things like that. So secondary bacteria where the itching's happening. The cause is not the bacteria. The bacteria is secondary. So then you give antibiotics. The antibiotics go in, kill off all of the friendly bacteria that even helps with the original problem that's going on to begin with. And then you set up this big, hamster wheel of not being able to get off, because nobody wants to see their animal suffer. And skin disease is a really long-term, chronic, it's torturous, right? They're constantly itching, constantly biting, constantly scratching, having to wear cones, having to wear shirts, having to imagine what that would be like. It would just be terrible, right? So, pet parents do what they feel they need to do to get their animals out of pain or out of suffering. But if your veterinarian doesn't have the tools in his toolbox or her toolbox to look at skin disease as either an autoimmune disease that can and get to the core issue, or have other tools in their toolbox besides drugs. Autoimmune diseases are not addressed very well in conventional medicine. They just don't have anything that is very beneficial. And then what happens is that when your immune system is like, it suppresses the immune system. So autoimmune means the immune system's too high. So atopica and steroids bring the immune system down, but then it gets too low, and then they get secondary infections, and then they have to go back on antibiotics. So you can see it's a very complicated situation to work with. Doesn't have to be, but it is.
Kind of mentioned the allergy versus intolerance already a little bit, but maybe we can just talk about that, that a lot of dogs are actually, diagnosed with allergies, but they're not really allergies, they're insensitivities. So your famous
sensitivity, reactivity, like intolerance is to that.
Yeah.
It's
why do dogs get allergies? I guess that's my question.
Oh my gosh, that's a long one, but I will tell you my opinion, right? Which is only an opinion through, working for 30 years, seeing animals that are completely fine, no signs of allergies, and then all of a sudden they come out with their first one. So when I was in conventional medicine, I started seeing a lot of it really young, right? So they would, let's say vaccinations. I'm not pointing a finger to vaccinate. I'm saying I'm almost looking at it as a sequence of events that in practice that I saw. So they'll get vaccinated, and if they're vaccinated under 12 weeks of age, then what winds up happening is that the mother's maternal antibodies are still really active, right? So I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm an anti-vaccinating anything at inappropriate timelines. So when you vaccinate a puppy or a kitten or whatever, when the mother's maternal antibodies are still really strong, a couple of things happen. When you get natural immunity, whether that's through slow immunity of going out and being, inhaling it or walking on it, and then you get little bits of it, or you get a natural immunity from the mother, it's in the body's immune bank. Let's say, let's just use it as a bank to make this super simple. Mm-hmm. And then you think of a body as a house. So if an invader if you guys go outside or your dog goes outside or whatever, and it comes in contact with parvo, or you guys come in contact with a virus or whatever, it enters into the house, right? Soon as it comes into the front door of the house, the alarm system goes off. That alarm system is the body's ability to go, okay, an enemy has invaded our house. So we are going to send down all of our antibodies and all of everything that we've got stored in our bank upstairs in the attic. We're going to send them out. If you think of I usually do this with two hands. If you think of a virus looking like a lock, let's say, and you think of an antibody looking like a key, all these keys tries this lock, right? The proper lock fits, so the proper antibody fits. The virus breaks open, and then all the macrophages and sort of Pac-Man cells come up, eat up the debris, and the average body doesn't even know that it's been challenged by a virus. So that's a healthy body. When you vaccinate, vaccines have had to be modified to slip past that first form of defense, because if they didn't, you would get sick when you got the vaccine. So you can look at it as the vaccine comes in the side door, right? Not the front door. Mm-hmm. Our immune system is so strong, or the immune system is so brilliant, that when it comes in the side door, it doesn't even, the army goes, okay, we don't have this virus, because if we did, or we don't have the tools to kill this enemy, because if we did, it wouldn't have got into the middle of the house. So then it sends out immediately the next stage, which is the active warriors, to come and kill whatever's invaded in the house. Now, they won't shut off until they kill something. They're searching for stuff to kill. And then they wind up killing things that are in the body that are passive, like chicken protein, dust mites, flea saliva, pollen, cotton, whatever, things that are in the system that should be passive and just naturally be removed through the process in the body. But they won't stop until they kill something. And then once they kill something, they save it as an antibody, or they look at it then as an enemy, right? So that an enemy that's been defeated. So then next time the dog eats chicken, the next time the dog goes and breathes in pollen or gets bitten by a flea, that whole reactivity of there's an enemy in our body happens. So it just gets worse. So I used to see animals come in, would get vaccinated, and then a few weeks later, or not even a few weeks, maybe even 3 or 4 days, they get an itchy ear, or they get puppy vaginitis. That's a big one. And then what happens is that they get their first course of antibiotics, and they're like 12 weeks old, or 8 weeks old, or 9 weeks old, or 10 weeks old. So then you're going in, not only is the animal in an immune mediated precarious situation, because it's trying to decide what it's supposed to be doing with a vaccine that already has those antibodies, with a body that already has those antibodies. So then it starts to create this whole process, and then the antibiotics kill friendly bacteria, and then it's like there's the wheel, right? And then sometimes it'll calm down, and then next year, then they come in for their booster, or a few weeks later they come in for their booster, and the same thing happens, right? Because they still haven't recovered. So it can be something like that. It can be a body, let's say the mother has been eating poor quality food. So the mother's been eating, a low quality dry dog food that doesn't have the micronutrients, that doesn't have the fresh, the live antioxidants and enzymes in them. So she doesn't have a healthy microbiome environment in her gut. When her puppies are born, they're born with her native bacteria. They're born with her bacteria. So they're born already compromised from a perspective of the gut is over 80% of the immune system. If the gut's not healthy, the immune system's not healthy. And an immune system that's not healthy can mean it's too low or it's too high. We always just think, oh, they're low and they'll get viruses. No, that's not true. If a gut's not healthy and the immune system's not healthy, it can oftentimes, and more dangerous, is it goes too high. So we see everything from a really bad environmental gut bacteria, unbalanced gut bacteria, which then leads to leaky gut, right? So when you have a bad gut bacteria, or you have an abundance, the dogs have abundance of yeast because all the proper bacteria has been killed off, then this
I'll do it for you.
okay, thank you. The lining of the gut, which is it almost looks like this. It's like a cheesecloth that when the food goes in and starts the digestive process happens, it's just the micronutrients go through these tiny, 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 tiny little holes and into the bloodstream. And that's how your animals and us get our nutrition. The proper bacteria also produces something called metabolites, and metabolites create the vitamins. So even if you're eating amazing food, even if your dogs are eating amazing food, if you don't have the correct bacteria in the bowel, that food does not turn into the nutritious value. So to produce long chain fatty acids, to produce vitamins, to produce proteins, you have to have the correct bacteria to do that. So if you're not doing that, you're not, the animal or the person is 10 steps behind already. They become malnourished. But then when the bacteria and the yeast gets bad, that lining gets stiff and starts to stretch apart. When that stretches apart, and you can see through the fingers, then everything that goes into the gut goes through undigested into the body. So it's going into the body undigested, and it causes, again, the body to go, what the flip is going on here? This should not be in my bloodstream. Why is that protein not broken down? Why is that drug coming into my bloodstream in its full form? So the gut doesn't just break down food. The gut breaks down and the bacteria metabolize toxins, right? So if they're not doing that, then the toxins are going straight into the bloodstream. When that happens, then the body goes into a state of alert. The immune system becomes hyperactive, and then they get autoimmune diseases. And that can be anything from the beginning is often, like I said, if they're still vital and they're trying to fight off all of this crap going into their bloodstream, they try to detoxify it through their skin. Then if that skin gets suppressed, then it goes into their kidneys, their liver, their lungs, their lymph nodes, their heart, right? It goes into all the other organs because it's being suppressed. So allergies, food sensitivities, whatever you want to call it, is a reactive process of a deeper disease. And the majority of those deeper diseases are coming from the gut. And then depending on what it is, it's a very strategic way of addressing it. So you can't just go, let's just throw a bunch of probiotics in and think it's going to help, because it's definitely not. And if you're not doing it correctly, you're going to cause more harm than good.
Yeah, so let's talk about some natural options. We already talked about the allergy drugs not being, or even hypoallergenic food. Maybe we can just touch on that for just a quick second. That these options, they might, give you that really quick that
relief,
exactly, that you're looking for. So your dog might stop itching right away, but it's not a long-term solution. You already mentioned that before. So
no,
maybe just let's just touch on the hypoallergenic food just for a second.
So what they're trying to do, and like I said, this is not a vet bashing seminar. This is a educational podcast to see how you can even work with your vet too, right? So there's lots of different approaches. If it's early on, get to your holistic veterinarian, reach out to people like you guys, reach out to people that can help you work through the early manifestations of this disease without trying to do anything else, like and as far as a conventional intervention. If that's not the case, what'll happen is they'll go on hypoallergenic food, and those foods are formulated to reduce the common reactive antigens that dogs are predominantly allergic to. And it also removes the way that they're processed so that the body doesn't recognize them, right? So if a dog's even allergic to chicken, let's say, and it gets a particular chicken that's processed or manufactured in a way that it almost tricks the body into not thinking that it's actually chicken. So for a short period of time, it gives them relief, right? Because the body's finally just not bombarded by all of these proteins and different things that the animal's reactive to, right? So but it's a short-term fix. It's not even a fix. It's a short-term try to help to alleviate the initial problem. But it's definitely, and because it's so processed, what it does then is it contributes to the imbalance of the microbiome. So you're kind of reducing it, but then you're adding more stress to the body by using it.
Yeah.
Because those foods are void of anything live. So the things that animals and people need the most when when their bodies are being challenged, whether it's through leaky gut or an overreactivity, or that it's been challenged from anything, even pollution or whatever, is it needs as many antioxidants as it possibly can conjure up in its food, right? So when you're doing a diet like that, it's so highly processed that it's not giving the body any tools to respond on its own to make itself healthy. And then it's just a very short-term thing to try to relieve the itch, but then it contributes to an imbalanced microbiome. So again, we're talking about that ridiculous wheel, right, that you get on and you just can't seem to get off.
Yeah.
You can hear my rooster.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
He's downstairs. He got beat up, and so now he's in. He looks like me.
No. All right. So let's start talking about natural options for anyone who's listening right now, who might have a dog with food sensitivities, allergies, skin issues. Let's talk about natural options to help those dogs and cats.
Okay. So again, you got to take it from a perspective of how bad are they? How long have they been on drugs? Is this just started? Has this been going on for 3 years? Is it really, really, really bad? Like, are they at the point where they've exhausted all options, and even like atopica and steroids aren't working anymore, or their liver enzymes are so bad that the vets are saying, well, we got to take them off steroid? Like, really depends, right? So how I look at it is that if it's just starting, you want to try, if it's yeast, if it's really yeasty, that it's a good idea to get a diagnosis, whether the dog does have secondary yeast or if it has yeast. Because if it has yeast, then the approach is going to be starving the yeast through a very, very low carbohydrate diet, if almost none, for the first couple of weeks. And then we develop a proprietary type of enzyme that ingests the biofilm in the yeast skeletal system. Because when you dump a bunch of probiotics into a yeasty dog, or you even give probiotics, like if you ever go to purchase something for yeast and you see that there's a probiotic in it, you should, I'm not saying that it's bad, good, or indifferent, but it's against the real, my experience of how you actually work with yeast. Because for me, what I always try to do is not create a detox. Because most of the time when a dog really detoxes and they have a skin disease, what winds up happening, they go back to the vets and then they get put on all of that other stuff again. So you're creating your animal for one suffering again, which is just not in my wheelhouse. I just won't let that happen. So I'm adamant about paying attention to how you do this. And that's what I wanted to say too. When you've decided that you're going to look onto the more holistic side, what holistic medicine is, it's an empowerment. It's not a quick fix that's natural. It's an empowerment of how to keep yourself and your animals' lives healthy, right? Healthy, focus on longevity, but not just longevity and staying alive, but quality of life. So with that comes being present, watching, paying attention, and being as big a part of your animal's healthcare system as your veterinarian is. So I think it's amazing. It's an amazing journey for anyone to get on, especially with their animals, because they even have to be more observant than they do with themselves. So if the animal does have yeast, then what we really want to do is we want to remove anything like probiotics, because probiotics will kill yeast. But if you kill yeast too quickly, you will get a die-off, it's called, a Herxheimer reaction. And that yeast has about 15 different kinds of toxins in it. And they're really toxic. They're corrosive on the skin. And when they die, they can produce up to 10 times more of those toxins. So they die off really fast. Then until the body's able to expel it, it sits almost like a yeast graveyard. And in that yeast graveyard comes all of these toxins. And when we get these toxins, what happens is the toxins produce very similar symptoms to yeast. So people just think that their allergies are getting worse, or their yeast is getting worse. So they go back to the vets. So if you know your dog has yeast, then you need to deal with yeast, and you need to take away probiotics, which is a very different thing than what most people do. Mm-hmm. And then you need to rehabilitate the gut once the yeast is all gone. And then you do that through, we have our leaky gut protocol, which helps to really bring down the inflammation of the gut lining and seal back the mucosal junctions, plus put in, at least 16 strains of probiotics into the gut. You want to be changing their food to real food, right? So raw food diets, or definitely start off with a really good cooked homemade diet that's balanced, and then slowly move them into a raw food diet. For dogs that are really, really sick, so that have been on drugs for a long time, I do not believe in going and asking your vet to take them off of Atopica or steroids. What you want to do, and this is really important because I get this all the time, people are fed up, they're terrified that their animals are getting sick, and they go to the vets and they take them off the drugs. And then it is like, or they just do it themselves, which is even worse. Then the animal goes through such a horrific rebound effect that they feel like the holistic protocols, whether they're mine or somebody else's, aren't working. They are working, but you've removed the drug so quickly that the body, remember I said, it's like putting duct tape on and it explodes, or you're pushing something back like with an elastic band, it rebounds back out. If you take your dogs off of drugs when you're doing holistic medicine cold turkey, you're going to get a rebound effect and your dog is going to suffer exponentially. That's my opinion. So what you want to do is you want to work with your veterinarian. You want to start you want to start all of the supportive treatments, right? And then you want to start reducing the drugs. Slow, 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 so that thank you. So, you're reducing the drugs and you're increasing the holistic protocols. And then you're reducing the drugs and increasing the protocol. And then finally, when the dog is in a space where it's clear that they're getting better, that's when you remove them all. But the body's got to get healthy before you just take away its crutch, right? Because that's what it's been. It's a crutch. You can't just kick a crutch out from someone's broken leg and go, okay, just walk, right? You've got to, do the rehabilitation. Well, you're rehabbing their gut as they're on the drugs. And people will say, oh, but then the drugs are doing this and the drugs, and it's not true. I can tell you it's not true. You can slowly incorporate all of the great options of supporting your dog's microbiome and immune system at the same time, and then you remove the drugs completely, but slowly.
Amazing. Honestly, like I'm just so happy like with the things that you have done throughout your career, because you know it's really something that we deal with personally with so many of our customers and pet parents, because they go through so much, and to use a natural product, right? And then a dog to react to it possibly.
Yep.
And then they go to the vet and the vet says, okay, well, here's more conventional treatment. And it's just a cycle, and
It's a bad cycle.
Yeah.
It's a bad cycle.
And it's just like, we see it all the time, so it's like, I'm happy that you've created products where you can do it safely and to limit the amount of times that a pet parent would have to go, to a vet and possibly go through this type of treatment.
Yeah, and it's a great way of showing your veterinarian that you still have all the intentions of working with them, right? So don't wait until it's sick, take it back and go, oh, okay, so now could we reduce them a little bit? Can we reduce it a little bit more? Because, he's clearly doing better. She's clearly doing better. So you keep working with them, because what winds up happening is it's like people take them off the drugs, put them on a raw food diet and some probiotics or whatever. And then they get worse and then they go back. So not only does the dog suffer, but in the vet's eyes, it makes it look like holistic medicine doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a double whammy. Then it takes a pet parent's confidence in holistic medicine not working. It's just poopy all the way around. Like we can't do that. Like we really got to have a plan, right? You wouldn't have, some kind of terrible, autoimmune disease or something, and then just say to well, I'm just going to take myself off this drug and I'm not going to have a plan, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody needs to have a plan of what they're going to do, when they're going to start to reduce the drug. It works amazing that way. One thing I did want to say is that there'll be a point where the vets will probably say that the drug is inactive at the dose that they're giving, meaning, well, we can't reduce it anymore because it's not going to work. I can tell you that isn't necessarily true. I can't say it's 100% not true because I'm not allowed to say that. But in my clinic, I can say that 100% of the time that wasn't true, because I would have animals that had certain diseases, even like severe diseases like, autoimmune hemolytic anemia, which they have to often live on low amount or live on steroids. And what'll happen is we would get the animals so much healthier, and we would be able to reduce the steroids, that people would be like, well, my vet is saying that the amount of steroids that this dog is on now, there's no therapeutic dose. And we call that microdosing, meaning that for whatever reason, it might be incurable, right? For whatever reason, because they don't have their sex hormones. That's the number one reason that could be happening, right? They don't have the hormonal support to fully heal on every level, because not having your sex hormones has a kaleidoscope effect or a waterfall effect on all the hormones. Mm-hmm. So don't worry. Truthfully, like I've said to people, if animals have to stay on the teensy amount of steroid, along with all of this other amazing stuff that you're doing to support their body, and then you'd have them on liver tonic, and you would always make sure that you were supporting the organ that the drug would affect, mm-hmm. right? But you can have them on the smallest amounts, and they can live a totally normal life with the same longevity of not being on them, right? It's really a fine balance that at the end of the day works out to be so brilliant and so incredible. And vets are shaking their heads and going, wow, this is really great. You know, you can keep going back to your vet to get blood work done to show that, you know, that very, very, very small amount of steroid is not affecting their liver. So you're still working with your veterinarian. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters at the end of the day is that your dog is happy. Mm-hmm. I would even put happy before healthy. Happy, healthy, and lives the best, has the best life they can for the longest.
Yeah.
You know, it's not who's right, who's wrong. You know, these people are wrong, these people are right, this way is the right way, this way is the wrong way. And everything you're hearing from me, everything, it comes from a place of clinical experience. This isn't just coming because I read a book or I did a lot of research or anything. I've done tons and tons of research, but this is empirical proof that I have witnessed for 25 years. Right. So I don't know everything, that's for sure. But what I can speak to is what I've seen in working with, you know, over 35,000 animals. So I feel like I can speak to a lot of this just because it was such a trial and error. It was, you know, for the first 5 years of practice, I didn't even know what to do. I was seeing these because I was the first holistic clinic, right, in Canada. So I had all these people coming to me going, if you can't fix my dog, we have to euthanize him. We've spent $15,000. He stinks. He can't come in the house. He has to wear a shirt. You turn around and his shirt's full of blood because he even can scratch through his shirt, right, through his t-shirt. Or he doesn't have any quality of life anymore, and our kids are screaming that he stinks, and my husband can't stand this, or my wife can't stand this. Like, I didn't even know what to do. I was just like, oh my God, like, what do I do here? You know? So a lot of my experience has come from, you know, having a pager on me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and working through these things little bits at a time. And every single product that I've created has come from putting them together at my clinic and using them and seeing what they do. But take my products aside, don't even think about my products for a minute. What I'm trying to teach people is that I'm trying not just to talk to them about my products, but protocols, expectations, what they should think. And that just comes from decades of experience, like in the trenches working with this, not just, like I said, something that I've read or something that I think I know because it's trendy now. You know, it isn't. It's a way of life that doesn't have black and white. There's a bunch of gray in the middle, and wherever you can fit into that gray, that your dog is feeling better and you're not pulling your hair out or crying every morning because you're seeing your vet, or not being able to afford your vet care anymore, anywhere in that gray area is where you want to be. And it's okay.
Yeah. You know, something that you said in one of your lectures that I really thought was very nice or very resonating as well was that, you know, a lot of people, or what I see a lot of people do is, as soon as, you know, the dogs are itchy or something, like a lot of people on Facebook groups and everywhere, they'll just suggest go do an allergy test. But, you know, you mentioned something where you said at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's an allergy or a skin disease or a sensitivity. What matters is the symptom, and what matters is that we, like the body is out of balance, and what are we going to do to bring the body back into a balance, so that whatever it is that you had or that your dog had, you know, it will level itself out. And
well, the other thing too is, you know, working with the amount of people that I worked with and amount of animals, I did a functional medicine program because I was getting every single social economic sector you could possibly imagine. And I had to figure out ways of doing things with people that they could also afford, right? We had actually had a sliding scale in our practice. I think we were the only practice that I even know of now that had a sliding scale. But I did a lot of work with it's called the Downtown East Side dogs, which are, Vancouver had a large sector of homeless people, and they all had animals. So I went down there from 4 p.m. until 5 o'clock in the morning every Tuesday with my whole team, and we worked on animals down there. And you just have to figure it out, right? When you see that. So when I look at allergy tests, the majority of allergy tests have, when you get them, it's impossible to remove what they're allergic to or reactive to or sensitive to. You'd have to put them in a bubble, especially with environmental allergies. You've got dust mites, you've got cotton, you've got pollution and pollen, and you've got all of these things that how do you do that, right? It's helpful in a way. It's helpful if you can afford it. It's helpful because in some cases, because you can look at it and you can kind of remove things to give your dog a little bit of reprieve, right? So like, let's say, you know, that your dog is like highly allergic to kangaroo or highly allergic to chicken or whatever. You can remove those proteins or remove those starches or remove whatever to while you're actually doing the protocols and stuff, to give them a little bit of reprieve. But if you don't do that, or you don't have the finances, or there's certain allergy tests that, in my opinion, they don't even work. They're not even accurate. I don't know. Can you guys send to Jean Dodds? Can you send from there to Jean Dodds, the saliva test?
I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out. We'll check it out.
Well, remind me later. I'll tell you about it. It's very accurate because it's taken from saliva. And she's an immunologist, and she's brilliant. And that one's helpful because it's a little more accurate than a lot of the blood tests. A lot of the blood tests aren't even accurate. And it's very interesting because you'll get a protein back, and people will swear, like, there's no way my dog's ever been on kangaroo. My dog has never been on kangaroo, but it's allergic to kangaroo. How can this be? Sometimes it can be because if something's rendered, like if a dog food is rendered, it says protein,
meat meal,
right? Or it says meat meal, and there could be everything in there from minks to soles of people's boots, right? Like, so there is a chance. So the best way to do this is to, if you know your dog, what have you never fed your dog? Have you ever fed it kangaroo or emu or some of the protein sources that are rarer? That's what I would normally do. I would, if I would choose a novel, they're called novel proteins, and one, which is from the history of having your dog, you know you've never fed it, right? And I would go with that to start, and make sure that you're just not using anything like peas or lentils or any kind of starchy material at all that will create more yeast.
Yeah. We have a couple of questions. Where did it go? Okay, so Christy is asking, is there any way to know whether the dog has yeast issues without the vet test, without the vet getting a test, doing a test?
Well, it's the best way to do it, to check for it, but yeast has a definite smell to it. You know, you hear everything from people say it smells like corn chips, it smells like dirty socks, it smells like dirty feet. You know, yeast has a really particular smell. It's also it can be quite sweaty. The body can be like the areas can be quite sweaty. Many times when it's in between their feet and their toes, there's a buildup of black gunk, for lack of better words, right? So if it's just allergies and they're licking it a lot, it's usually red with you know, and their hair discolors from licking it. But if you see black around their toenails or a black exudate or discharge, often that's yeast.
Okay. Stephanie is asking, my dog had a problem with the skin. The doctor said it was allergy from a tick, and her skin was never the same. She now has allergies on her eyes, and she's on meds, but still not good. She vomits. Would she get better if I focus on getting her gut healthy?
Yeah, allergy from a tick?
Yeah, that's what the doctor said.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay, so long as I'm not misunderstanding it and the dog doesn't have Lyme disease, do you know what I mean? Like they can get viruses from ticks, right? They can, you know, they can get different kinds of Lyme diseases or different kinds of tick-borne bacteria and viruses. So long as it's not that, and even if it was that, you want to make sure that your immune system is really strong. So again, if she's not doing well, and if she's vomiting, the vomiting could be from the medication, right? I mean, I would definitely let your vet know you're going to do this, and then start doing it. And then, as we said, I wouldn't stop the drugs, right? I would leave the drugs, or ask the vet if there's a drug, you know, could she be, look at the side effects, get online and look at the side effects of the drugs that the dog's on. See if one of the side effects is vomiting. And then if it is, you could be asking your veterinarian to change your drug, right? Change the drug so that the dog isn't as reactive to the drug. But for sure, start with an animal like that. I would probably start with something like Gut Soothe or Phytosflora, because Phytosflora will help with the detoxification process. But if they're vomiting, Gut Soothe really, really helps with to bring down the inflammation and to soothe the lining of the stomach, as well as the intestines.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if they're vomiting, I would start off. You guys have raw food. If you're going to go raw food, then I would start off with no bone, right? So a food that doesn't have bone in it, or if it does have bone in it, it's really ground. Like find that if you went like this with your fingers, you couldn't feel them. And I would cook it. For a dog that's vomiting. I would probably put them on Gut Soothe and liver tonic, and I would feed them a cooked diet for probably 3 weeks. You know, I would mix their normal food with cooked and Gut Soothe. Then I would get rid of their normal food and I would keep doing cooked. And then once the vomiting isn't happening anymore, then I would start with a quarter raw and mix a quarter raw with the cooked food for another 3 weeks to a month. I would do it super duper duper slow. And the nice thing is if you have a mix of raw that has fine bone, it's probably balanced, right? So then really all you need to do is cook it to be sure that it's, make sure that you're dumping out if there's a lot of fat that comes. Don't feed the fat. Once it's cooked, fat's great for them when it's raw, but not when it's cooked.
Patricia says she lives in Portugal and it's spring season now. And the puppy developed an allergy. He eats raw food since 1 month old. The vet recommended Apoquel and some shampoo. I don't want to give him medication, but I don't know what to do.
So is this on Facebook?
Yeah.
How old is it now?
She didn't say, but the puppy,
Puppy.
Yeah.
If she hasn't started any drugs, definitely I would be doing like for a young puppy like that, I would be starting them on the leaky gut protocol probably, because and see where that takes her. Maybe take her food and do a novel protein for even 3 months or a month to 3 months, or do a month and do it and then switch to a different novel protein depending on how old it is. You don't want to do the same protein with a puppy for a long time, but I would probably switch proteins, make sure that it's not on any carbohydrates at all. Phytosynergy would be something that I would definitely recommend for early stuff like this, for sure. And if she's going to do leaky gut, I know this sounds like I'm because I can only really address stuff with the products, right? I mean, it's not coming to my vet clinic. So, I would do phytosynergies, phytoflora, and the leaky gut protocol. I do them all and start off with one, maybe start off with phytoflora for a week, then add phytosynergy for a week, and then start doing the leaky gut protocol. And then do all 3 of them. Because what that'll do is if something happened to this puppy where it got into something, or again, even if it's been on raw food, remember I said, if it's been on raw food as a puppy, but its mother didn't have a balanced microbiome, it will have been born with an unbalanced microbiome. So the phytoflora will add the canine strain, right? Mm-hmm. And then everything else will help to repair the gut lining and strengthen the gut lining. And as far as shampoos go, I would definitely not be using anything crazy topical. I would be doing the kefir with a teaspoon of phytoflora in it, mix it all together, massage it into his coat, let it sit for 15-20 minutes, rinse it off with clear water or rinse it off with chamomile tea, rather than to give him some topical relief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Leslie is asking, what is the likelihood that a dog's food intolerances can change over time?
Food intolerances? Oh yeah, for sure they can. If they're not actual true allergies, which most of them aren't. Food intolerances, once the gut is healed, food intolerances can be completely eradicated if the proper steps are put in place. Yeah. I know lots and lots of people and lots of dogs that have had massive food intolerances, and they can, once they've healed their gut and are, conscious of eating, keeping their, if you're a person, keeping yourself conscious of having an alkaline system, right? And if a dog, making sure that you maintain that consciousness of keeping them acidic, there should be no reason why food intolerances eventually aren't eradicated.
Lisa, she's saying, just Maybe just one more question. Lisa is saying she's had a blood allergy test done, and that showed that the dog is allergic to all proteins. How can she tell how to tell which part to take to get the gut into balance? She doesn't smell a yeasty smell, so you kind of answered this question already, Lisa. I think that was the same question as before, right? What would you say?
Well, when there's that many allergies, chances are that it's leaky gut, because what's happening is just everything is going in and everything is becoming reactive. Everything. Like if you did that test, you would probably see, if they really specified that test, they would probably, any drug the dog ate or ever was on, that would probably show. No, but I'm saying like when the dog is allergic to that many proteins, that's usually a strong indication of leaky gut syndrome. Strong, because it just shouldn't be allergic to everything like that unless it's leaching out of the mucosal lining and into the bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't show up like that.
Yeah.
So that would be definitely the leaky gut protocol, along with phytosynergy and phytospora.
Yeah. Just one more question from me. With the yeasty beast, like sometimes you talk about the relief protocol where you do 2 weeks yeasty beast, 2 weeks phytospora, 2 weeks leaky gut, and then again all of that again. So would you recommend this for dogs who are just like
a mess? Yeah,
who just don't have another, like they've tried everything basically.
Yeah, I call them hot messes. So because they're hot, they're sticky, they're panting, they're restless, they just don't even know whether they're coming or going. And is CBD legal there? That's too bad. Yeah, because CBD can really help to take their cortisol levels down because they get so stressed. Mm-hmm. Can you get our go-to over there?
We have that.
Okay, so in that relief program, I didn't talk about go-to a lot because we weren't able to get it into the US, but now we can, and we can get it into other countries. So I would be doing that because if they're that bad, chances of them having secondary yeast is high, especially if they do have that smell. And it's kind of a big ask for a body to heal from having all three sort of allergies, food reactivities, and yeast, and hot spots and everything, because if the yeast is affecting them even while you're healing the gut, then what you can wind up happening is killing the yeast too fast, and then they get worse. Or the yeast is so itchy, they scratch, and then they get secondary bacterial infection. So doing this relief protocol, it helps the body's immune system get stronger. So if you do phytospora first, what that does is it helps with the immune response, right? So phytospora really is the only product on the market right now with any company that has a natural, that can show with health claims that it actually works as an immune modulator, right? We did a lot of work on that. So if the immune system goes too high, it brings it down. It's like the effects that the vets are trying to get with steroids. Having an immune modulator helps to bring it down, but that if it goes too low, so that then they get bacterial infections, it brings it up. Mm-hmm. So when you start with that, the focus and the hope is that the fulvic and humic acid helps the blood clear itself, the body clear itself from toxins that have been seeping through into the bloodstream, right? Then the canine strain is the specific to helping modulate the immune system. So you're calming the immune system down. You're saying to the immune system, okay, just chill out. You can calm down. You don't have to be reactive to everything. Then you go on to the next one, if it's really stinky and really yeasty smelling, I would go on the Yeasty Beast. Not so stinky and not so reactive in that way, then I would go on the leaky gut protocol. So then what you're doing there is you're soothing out the lining so that it can actually heal, right? Then you're going into the Yeasty Beast protocol to start trying to kill some of the yeast. And then you're going back so that you're not creating a detox, or you're not with the leaky gut protocol, you're not like ramping up their immune system, that the body starts to kill the yeast off really fast.
Mm-hmm.
But always finishing on the leaky gut protocol, right?
Always, yeah. And the phytos, not the Yeasty Beast, but the Phytophthora can go with everything in the Yeasty Beast.
Okay.
Right? So you don't have to worry about that. If you're really seeing a difference with the Phytophthora because of the autoimmune part of it, they can stay on that, but they can't stay on it with the Yeasty Beast because you don't want probiotics when you're giving anything for yeast.
Yeah. All right.
And then that's what I was going to say. So then if they're really itchy, if you have an animal that's just like nothing's working and the drugs aren't working and you're going to start all of this stuff, giving your go-to really can help them. I often recommend CBD oil, but the go-to is really good too, because it helps, the arnica in it helps for trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So it really helps with the inflammatory response on the skin. And then the aconite helps to decrease the cortisol levels, which are really highly stimulated in the stress-induced disease process of itching, being always itchy, right? So it helps to calm them down.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much, Julie. Now, for everyone listening, thank you so much for listening. We have a surprise for you for sticking with us for so long. This is so awesome. So for everyone who would like to get some Adored Beast products to help their dogs with allergies or skin disease or sensitivities, in Canada and in America, you can get them at adoredbeast.com or .ca, and you can get a discount on your first order with the code PODEGA15. And drumroll for everyone in Dubai and the UAE, we are actually doing a sale for the leaky gut and the Yeasty Beast protocol because it's allergy season on Saturday. It's the March 20th, which spring, is going to come, and we know that a lot of pet parents are going to be concerned about seasonal allergies. So we want to make it a little easier for you guys to start the springtime healthy and hopefully lower some of those symptoms. So you can shop on our website, podega.com, and get 10% off with Spring 10, the discount, until Tuesday. So yeah, we're super excited. Super excited. I hope that you all hey. I hope that you all took lots of great info from the from this live, and for any questions that are still open, we're going to get to them through the comments at some point and try to help you in the comment section. So, and this video will be available on YouTube or for replay. If you missed the beginning, please do watch it from the beginning. And thank you so much, Julie, for
You're welcome.
We did not expect that at all. And,
it's okay.
Yeah, we're so thankful to have you spread so much important knowledge and change the life of so many pet parents and pets around the world.
Well, thank you for doing everything you do too, because I definitely wouldn't be over in Dubai. So and spread this. Well, that's the whole thing, right? It's just to get it out there and like-minded people supporting one another and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julie.
Okay, you're welcome.
Again.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.